trauma is reliving experiences that were suppressed over time that create certain triggers within your mind, your body, your spirit. And that's what they call it. That's why they call it traumatic, because you're
Yeah.
reliving something that you necessarily weren't trying to relive again, or you were pushing down. That's
Right.
what called trauma. Then you have PTSD, etc. So for me, it's, I think, especially as Black men, is understanding that you have to one day face those things. But a big part about it in the recovery process is it's the letting go. There's so many things that we have to heal from. We have to forgive ourselves for. We have to forgive other people for, that we just have to like be at peace with. And that is an ongoing process, because we put so much pressure on ourselves to be providers, to be leaders, to be a man, to be fathers, to be brothers, to be friends. And all of those things can continuously compact in our mind, to the point where as though we're trying to live up to a level of expectation that essentially society.
What's up, y'all? So, look, let me just go ahead and keep it short with you. Did you know that as of 2024, the United States has a literacy problem? 21% of adults cannot read, and 54% of them have been recorded, and it has been documented read below a sixth grade level. That is a catastrophe. But that's where I step in. Now, I'm not going to teach the grown folks how to read and write. However, PSA, the Ghostwriting Solution, has now a new package. It's called the Literacy Liftoff, and it caters to 9th through 12th graders who struggle with reading, writing, and comprehension. This new tutoring service will offer vocabulary skills, teaching students how to literally write from the bottom, literally teaching them how to do an introduction paragraph, how to do a hook, how to do a conclusion, how to add a little razzle dazzle, and how to add their own personal touch to it. Okay. Now, you know what you're saying. Well, Izzy, that's what they go to school for. Absolutely. But as an ex-teacher, the teachers just don't have time. So this program has 3 different packages from 3 different sets of hours that you can take. So if you're an AP, a principal, the student who needs help, the parent of the student, or you just know somebody who needs the help. If you're in the Houston area, you can get in-person tutorials. But if you are not in Houston, there are also virtual options offered as well. So hit me up at my email, theprodigyperspective@gmail.com, and or psathepodcast.com, and we will hook you up. What's up, everybody? Can you believe we really going through it with season 9? Like, this is crazy. The fact that I'm even 9 seasons in, and we only getting better. And that's the thing. Like, some people slow down, some people stay the same, but we only getting better. So I'm thankful for y'all tuning in again to another hot fire episode. And we got a lot to talk about today. Now, this topic is interesting because we haven't really talked about it before. It's kind of like been in the episodes a little bit, but how we're gonna go about it is a little different today. Because one thing, as a man, see, I'm gonna sound like these women today. As a man, you should not be letting life happen to you, especially as a believer, because a lot of times, in a lot of cases, you either already got the red flag about something, a person, or God showed it to you. He might have showed it in a dream. I don't know. People have different things, right? So let's just keep that in mind. But anyway, let's get into this week's meme real quick, because I don't want to hold y'all up. So the meme this week read, go do what he told you to do 6 months ago. We already coming out the gate swinging. All right, let's get into the inspirations. Inspirations for this week come from a few different places. So it was actually, I was watching Covered by God recently by Tiffany Montgomery, and it was a conversation she had about spiritual gaslighting and how you be seeing stuff or be knowing stuff and you be thinking you be tripping. Anybody who knows me knows I got that bad. Like, I think I be tripping, and then it come out exactly what I was thinking. I'd be like, maybe it's me, maybe I'm wrong, and then you see something over and over again. In the past, it's gotten me in trouble. Not so much these days. It was this old sermon I was watching by Rita Twigg. Never had even heard of her, but she old school. And we're gonna get back to this quote later. But she said something in her sermon that really got me. Like, she had said, You won't preach mother because you won't even preach the letter M. Now that's probably like what you mean by that. I'm gonna go more in depth later because I don't want to, rush it now. And then Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans." So this reminds you all. This is another note I found. It says it reminds men to be intentional with planning, committing, and aligning their work with whatever God calls them to do. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and let me jump into the first segment for today, which is happy hour. Okay, so something we got to address today. Something that I've been noticing, especially amongst men, and I hate it. Not too long ago, everyone, you all know I had struggled with suicidal ideation for many years of my life. On top of that, one of my close friends committed suicide in 2021, and not that long ago, not even a week ago, my little cousin committed suicide, which is actually the first in my family, right? This conversation really was supposed to kind of come off in jest, and it still might a little bit, but what I want to talk about is your homeboy is not your therapist. Now, there's this narrative going around that I hear, and again, I ain't no expert, but let's be real. There's a narrative going around that I hear a lot about, especially amongst Black men, especially when it comes to therapy. I've been to therapy 2 different occasions, and it's kind of like, I don't need no therapist, or I can just talk to my friends about it, or it ain't that deep. There's been a rise in men committing suicide. I don't have the statistics today. I should have, but that's happening for a reason. So when we had these logics, or we think like, oh, I can just talk to my friends about it. They ain't no expert. They not the ones you need to be talking about, because half the time they don't know what to do either. And like I said, that one time when you seen that meme floating around where it'd be like two homegirls that'd be loud and wrong, telling each other business, talking about some you ain't wrong, friend. That's the same situation with dudes. Like, y'all be loud and wrong, and I'll be like, and at the point we have to get to the point where we stop thinking that we have to stop going in and some people tell their friends what they want to hear. And I'm gonna ask my guests about this today when we get into that. But a lot of y'all don't. And a lot of y'all say y'all want the truth, but then when the person gives you the truth, you can't handle it. So what do you do when that happens? I think if there's a way, and a lot of these jobs cover it, not everybody's job. I know in Texas in education, it covered. I think in Missouri, it do too. I'm not sure. But I know in education, it's covered in the fee. So you can go get you some therapy for free, or like a discount. But more than likely, in most cases, it's free. So you need to look into that. And a lot of people say they don't need to try. I say just try it just to see. You never know. There's so many people that went to therapy and tried and was like, dang, it wasn't what I thought. So it's not just advice, and keep that in mind. All right. So that's actually a great segue to today's topic. Now, I kind of briefly discussed it earlier, talking about not letting things happen to you, right? So I have the perfect person for that. This is a Detroit native. This is somebody who I've been keeping up with on social media. They're doing their thing in Detroit. You know how I'm for creatives from the Midwest like me, and people who stand on business and not stand on business in the way that I feel like is normalized. I feel like they do it in a way that's a little more productive and a leader in their industry, I should say. So let's go ahead and get today's conversation going. Let me introduce my boy. What is going on?
What's going on? What's happening? What's happening? Appreciate you for having me on to the PSA.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So obviously my people online can see you on YouTube, but for my audio people, can you tell the people what's your name? Kind of already said it, where you from, and then where you live now.
Absolutely. So my name is Andrei, Mr. Duffy, Nichols II. Currently reside out of Detroit, Michigan. That's my hometown. And I serve as a creator, hustler, director of impact. And through my company, I serve as a community relations consultant. So I have my hands in different pots, but my main goal is to make sure that the environments that I do take up space in, I'm leaving a lasting impact for something that's valuable.
Okay. All right. Now tell the people what it is that you kind of briefly stated what you do, but tell us more about just kind of some of your businesses that you kind of got running.
Okay. So my main business right now is the Duffy Enterprise, and that is my community relations agency where I work with founders, small businesses, and nonprofits to help them find their clarity through architecting their ideas into impact. So what that looks like is strategy planning, consultations, coaching, or one-on-ones, workshops, project management, or digital marketing. And I use a group of individuals within my digital resource group to help at least outsource some of that work, so that way I'm not only taking advantage of my network, but I'm also exposing my clients to other people who can satisfy their needs. So it's like a network of people that I like for everybody to work with. And then outside of that, I'm partners with Michael on our brand Just Create, which houses Kingdom Knights. So that is our community for Christian believers, creators, innovators, and entrepreneurs to fellowship and grow in Christ together, as well as maintain a strong brand when it comes to their content creation, advancing in this world of information technology, marketing, and business. And outside of that, I'm just community leader. So I also work with a nonprofit organization as an internship program lead. That organization is called Urban Alliance. So I work with seniors within the Metro Detroit area to help them facilitate their internship throughout their senior year. And then after that, it's post-secondary planning. So making sure that they have a plan of what they want to do after high school. And I'm a Detroit baby, so I love my city. I love to be a part of what's going on. I'm a very vibrant person, so make sure my energy is just radiating to the next thing that I'm working on.
Okay, you're handling a lot of good stuff, so that's good to hear.
Yes, sir.
I don't know, Michael was on my podcast. He was on the live stream a few
Okay.
months ago.
Yes, sir.
And I had another guy talk with Take Podcast. He from Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
and both sides of my family I have from Detroit. It's crazy, some parts, and I'm from St. Louis, but so it's interesting with that, and I keep running into more and more Detroit people.
Hey,
Now,
like a cousin state for real, for real.
you said what?
Like a cousin state for real. Like
No, for real, like
Missouri.
y'all right over there. So yeah, that's crazy. But what was I about to say? Okay, you got a lot of good stuff. Now, what I want to ask you next. So with that, you got all these things you working on. We talking about, not letting life happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think, in your honest opinion, do you feel as though you're on the how you want to say this? I don't want to say this. Do you think that you're more proactive than reactive when it comes to life at this point in your life?
I think that it's a split, and I say that honestly because there's a lot of things that happen in life where I have to respond to because I didn't plan for it. And
Yeah.
then there's also things that I'm actively pursuing that I do my best to make sure I have some sort of control, all that I am blessed to have. So for me, it's like an even kill because that's just life in general. If I could be proactive with everything in life, I think a lot of things will go in my favor. But I think because it doesn't, it allows me to adjust and be adaptable. So I think I use that to my advantage, and it has put me in positions to be able to experience things differently than if I would have had a plan for it. It's honestly kind of like testing your instincts and seeing what exactly you gravitate towards naturally.
So with that, we got to get to your personal journey because you didn't just wake up here overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So what led you to be this person that's so proactive? You love your city,
Mm-hmm.
you and all these different things, working with the youth, working with Christians and the Kingdom Knights, which I've seen the clips of that, y'all. It's different, but it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk more about that later because I have a lot to say about that.
Okay.
But personal journey, how did you get to all this?
Man, like you said, it's been a journey. I would say that since I was in elementary school, I was always talented in different areas, whether it be sports. I used to dance. I was a part of cotillions. My parents, which I'm blessed to have
Yes.
both in my life, they always kept me involved in some form of extracurricular activity because I wasn't a stable sit down type of child. Like I needed to be active. I was the person who had good grades, but the citizenship score, you know what I'm saying? I was the one talking in class, but I had my work done. I
Yes.
had great friends. I always was known, quote unquote, and the social groups that I would be surrounded by. So for me, it started off as a lot of energy and charisma, which then gravitated towards the entrepreneurial route when I started becoming more privy to the opportunities that business had. And I will say in high schools when I really started to catch wind of what my potential could be, especially when I joined programs like the Midnight Golf program in Detroit, along with being a caddy. I I always had experiences that other people within my culture didn't, especially playing golf, being immersed in that type of sport as well as culture. And then going to Michigan State, where I studied marketing, is really where I started to blossom and saw that not only did I have a knack for community building, but I genuinely enjoyed seeing what could happen if you put your brand out there to the fullest and allow other people to gravitate towards you versus you gravitate towards them. It's like it's a different shift when you have something that's a little bit more attracting and you don't have to put as much effort behind just being yourself. And so over time through social media, going viral, making sure that I was making my personal brand something that was uh, opportunity for other people to take something away from. I think that it started in 2018 when I was in sophomore junior year of college. That's when I really saw that I had a true knack for not only community building but social media. So I kind of took those things and ran with it, and then I started my company, the Duffy Enterprise, in 2020. And from there, it's been a lot of opportunities that have came my way through networking, through being able to service my clients, service my community, and then essentially fall in love with just being me. I think that a lot of times my success comes from when I spend my time figuring out how to be the best version of myself. My mentor, John Ambrose, has this quote that says, count the days. I mean, make the days count, don't count the days. Because sometimes you get so caught up and get to that next week that you don't make that day the most valuable day that it could be. So learning how to just stack my days, build up a system, habits, consistency, and it's like a snowball effect. And I just use that to my advantage. Got around some good people throughout my life, and ever since then, I've been thriving. Started my own mentoring program in high school, being able to award student scholarship money. So it's definitely been a lot of great things that I've been blessed to do, but also I've been able to just be a servant too, being able to work with other people, help them build out their visions, and being able to see what it's like to be on both ends of the spectrum when it comes to not only serving somebody else, but also being fortunate enough to have other people, want to invest and serve you too.
I like that. So a lot of things you said here got to unpack. Let me ask you. So let me ask the. Okay, so I can relate to that. Like talkative kid, had the good grades, but still was in a bunch of stuff. It wasn't that I couldn't sit down. I just was always in stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have siblings, or are you only child?
I'm the oldest. I have 3 younger siblings.
Okay, because I'm the only child. So okay. Okay. I like a lot of stuff that you got going on. So let me ask this question. Matter of fact, I'm gonna save it for the next segment. Let's do this. I'm gonna name some words, and I
Mm-hmm.
want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. There's no right or wrong answer. You ready?
Okay.
So the first one, which is a phrase, spiritual gaslighting.
Spiritual gaslighting. I think a false prophet. That's the first thing I think of when I hear that.
That's good. Okay. Proactive.
I think a leadership, and planning ahead.
Okay. All right, good. Now let me get to the definitions. So the definition of spiritual gaslighting is when that manipulation and abuse involves using religious beliefs, sex, or authority in order to control, invalidate, or undermine someone's spiritual experiences or personal beliefs. Proactive means intending to produce a good result or avoid a problem rather than waiting until there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep that definition in mind because we're going to unpack it more. So let's get into the next segment for the day, which is, what does this have to do with mental health? Now, most people don't understand, and when I say understand, it's not like I'm smarter than everybody. Let me throw that out there. But the definition of mental health is the study of how we act, think, and feel.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about this topic today, you talking about a lot of things that you did and worked on and was a part of. Do you feel that you were back then and even now a light in dark places?
Absolutely. I definitely, even throughout building myself up, I've been on a roller coaster journey. I've had my ups, I've had my downs. I've been diagnosed myself. I go to therapy. I've been to therapy. I've been to psychiatric facilities. I've seen psychiatrists. So I've done the work I've chosen. That's one thing that a lot of people kind of overlook. I chose to go get help, and that was a part of me being proactive, especially after acknowledging that there were things in my life that I necessarily didn't understand about myself that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I can empathize with yourself when you talk about having suicidal ideation. That is something that I've experienced, and not a lot of people even understand. They don't grasp. They hear the terms, and they don't
Yeah.
understand like the depth or the actual meaning behind it because it's subjective based off of who you're talking to. My experiences may be different than what your experiences have been. At the same time, they may fit up under an umbrella of some sort. So for me, it's just being cognizant of where I'm at a specific time and being self-reflective. I'm always in a state of reflection. I'm always in a state of what is the present saying to me at this moment, and how am I aligning myself with the things that I see are for me.
I like that because I didn't ask you about therapy before getting on here, so we can tell that it just kind of aligned. I didn't ask you, nothing about that, but I'm glad to see that you said you went because it wasn't like for me. I went because it was like I was at my the bottom of the bottom, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what, it's free. Let me just go see what's up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that I did. And it's some people who don't get a chance to do that. And it's just like I feel like if they are entertaining those thoughts, because I'm not trying to turn this to a sermon, but really, if you hate if you give the devil a foothold, you give him, you know what I'm saying? So you entertaining stuff, and that's just with anything. We always think about just lust when entertaining stuff with our mind. But it's
Mm-hmm.
also with suicide and those types of things. You entertain that thought of like,
Mm-hmm.
what if I wasn't here? Maybe it would be better if I wasn't, and maybe I should just do this. And then it just starts as the little thoughts, and then over time it'll transition into, like you said earlier, a snowball effect. And now you thinking this is the only option.
Exactly.
And with being a light in dark spaces, I feel like if you're not taking care of your light properly when you are engulfed in those places, you'll be like the light for everybody else, but then it'll be overwhelming for you.
Yes.
And I think that that's why it's good that you have to get yourself together, whatever that means for you. Whether and taking breaks, making sure you're good first. People want to give to everybody, but don't take care of themselves. My boundaries are elite. I don't. People call me a terrible person. I don't care. Like could write a book on how to set boundaries. Like you're not gonna make me feel bad about me, because
Right.
if you might about to run me crazy. Like especially my favorite thing is you're not about to text me, call me on my phone for free. Like I said, now if you sending me a check, I got you. But you're not finna call me on my phone, send me no text talking. Like we're not doing that. If you feel aware about something, cool. But when you start getting disrespectful, we're not doing that. So
Yeah.
people know if you text me talking crazy, just know you're gonna go green. So don't you already? I didn't say this on social media a bunch of times. I'm not playing. If I gotta make a believer out of you, I will.
Mm.
With that, when we're talking about mental health, how do you think, besides boundaries, because I just said that when I gave that one away,
Yeah.
but how do you think that men especially can be light bearers in the family, jobs, and community starting today?
I think a big part about it is we have to one face our trauma, face the things that are bottled up inside. That
Yeah,
was something that I did and still probably face until this day, probably gonna forever have to go through just because trauma is reliving experiences that were suppressed over time that create certain triggers within your mind, your body, your spirit. And that's what they call it. That's why they call it traumatic, because you're
yeah,
reliving something that you necessarily weren't trying to relive again or you were pushing down. That's
right.
what it called trauma. Then you have PTSD, etc. So for me, it's I think especially as black men, it's understanding that you have to one day face those things. But a big part about it in the recovery process is it's the letting go. There's so many things that we have to heal from. We have to forgive ourselves for. We have to forgive other people for that. We just have to like be at peace with, and that is an ongoing process because we put so much pressure on ourselves to be providers, to be leaders, to be a man, to be fathers, to be brothers, to be friends, and all of those things can continuously compact in our mind to the point where as we're trying to live up to a level of expectation that essentially society either set or that we set for ourselves, and then we get crushed beneath the weight. So for me, it's managing my own expectations for what I want from Andre, and then anything outside of that is literally extra. If I'm able to take advantage of that opportunity, cool. If not, then I'm not losing sleep over something that I necessarily didn't want for myself in the first place. And I think that what you said earlier makes a lot of sense when you set boundaries, understanding what you are and what you are not willing to tolerate, because what you see and what you give yourself is what other people are going to do in return. If you tell yourself you love you, if you pride in your own time, and you are very intentional about making sure that you are showing up for yourself, when it's time to do it for other people, it may be a little less difficult to do it because you've already practiced on yourself. It's almost like when you want a certain significant other, but you haven't done those same things for yourself, but you want to
Yeah.
expect that out of them. Same thing in a relationship with a friend. You can't tell you all my friends to show up to my birthday party. I want my friend to check on me, but nobody hears from you unless it's a random Blue Tuesday once a year. That's not pretty, consistent or persistent for that person. So it's like, how can you expect the same to come back to you? So it's just meeting yourself where you are, acknowledging the things that you will need to heal from, and being in a state of reflecting and healing and growth. And then that way, that could be a recyclable, I guess you could say something that's recyclable for the next generation.
That's the thing. It's just a lot we can go unpack with that. And I have another question to ask you, but before we get into that, let me get into some statistics. So, what does this topic have to do with mental health? So, here are 4 ways this mindset aligns with mental health well-being, supported by reputable sources. Prioritizing mental health days. We kind of talked about that a little bit. According to an article titled "Unheard of Work Habit," Gen Z won't quit, from news.com. It says younger generations, including millennials, are increasingly recognizing the importance of mental health days to prevent burnout. By proactively taking time off to recharge, individuals can maintain better mental health and overall well-being. The second one is engaging in physical activity. According to 7 tips to improve men's mental and physical well-being, it talks about the importance of activities like jogging, swimming, or walking serve as proactive measures to enhance mental and physical health, which we all know helps you in the long term with things too. And also, let me throw this out for my skinny brothers. Now, I ain't never been skinny. Y'all know I was pushing 300. For the skinny ones out here who eating what you want, how you want to, I'm telling you, your days are numbered. Take that as you want. Your days are numbered. When you wake up one day, it's gonna all hit you at once. I have seen it happen too many times. Y'all think, oh, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I eat what I want. You 30. All right. Okay. The third one is building social connections. So, according to mental health tips for men from Piedmont Healthcare, actively seeking and nurturing social relationships can provide emotional support and reduce feelings of isolation. So, this is good to engage in hobbies and things of that nature. And then the promotion, which I think we are seeing a lot more of these days, promotion of healthy masculinity. So, it says youth advocate and educator Daniel Principe on healthy masculinity discusses efforts to combat toxic masculinity and promote healthy masculinity among young men by proactively engaging in meaningful activities and choosing positive influences. Young men can improve their mental well-being. Now, my next question to you is from somebody you work in community relationships and mentorship. From your experience, why do you think so many men get stuck in feeling or just get stuck in that autopilot mode?
That's a good question. Um, I can't speak for all men, but I will speak for myself. When I have had that feeling of being in autopilot mode, it's a sense of, am I doing something that is purposeful, and am I doing it for myself, or am I doing it for others? A lot of times as a man, you wanna feel proud about what you're doing. When I say doing, I'm talking about work. It could be extracurricular. It could be something that you're doing as a hobby. You want it to be valuable. And I think as a man, a lot of times we become stagnant and complacent when the things that we're doing become redundant, becomes
Mm-hmm.
monotonous, and you aren't able to see the fruits of your labor because it's just like a rat race.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you get caught up in that feeling, or you get caught up in that cycle, you start to deteriorate your mind because you aren't being exposed or challenged to see life for what it really is. And I think that takes mentorship. It takes being in the right community, as you said, having social groups, having different outlets to show you what the world has to offer, because it's so many endless opportunities and possibilities to take advantage of and create. But if you don't know that they exist, then you'll constantly feel like you're just stagnant or you're in the same place. So I think some of that is what it comes from, and I've experienced some of it myself. So that's why I'm able to talk about it from that standpoint. But I know
Right.
every other man may feel different about it based upon where they're at in life, age, experience, and things like that.
Okay. This is the perfect segue. Let's go into the next segment, which is man to man. Okay, so now in this segment, I have to ask you a question. So we briefly talked about your businesses earlier, but this is about you, so we got to go more in depth. So now, can you share the inspiration behind the Just Create initiative and what motivated you to start?
Yeah. So Michael, my business partner, he was the one that was provided the vision. And October of 2023, we sat down for like the first time and we talked about it. And when he came to me, I already was thinking about something similar, like a classroom type setting, being able to teach and facilitate the people about specific things they could learn. And he had something in mind too, but more so coming from a biblical standpoint, wanting to create community for other Christians and believers, but people who are also creatives. Like, how can we find a sweet spot? So we joined forces and we started brainstorming, and we came up with the idea of Just Create, because we noticed that we both were creators, we both were entrepreneurs or had entrepreneur spirits and have pursued those endeavors in the past. And this is an opportunity for us to kind of take a look at things from somebody else's perspective. He would
Yeah,
look at it from my perspective of business, and then I would look at it from his perspective of being a spiritual leader and understanding what it's like to be a disciple of Christ and to truly follow God appropriately. So after that, we held our first session, which was around Thanksgiving weekend of 2023, and it was a phenomenal experience. We had a workshop, we had panels, we had opportunity for people to take headshots, we had vendors, we had food, we had audio system for music, and it was just a great experience to bring people together and just experience what you can do if you are around like-minded people who are not only pursuing career goals and business goals and brand goals, but also they align with you from a faith perspective. And I
right.
think that's something that was very unique. So ever since then, we partnered up to just continue to build upon Just Create, adding members to our team like Randy, who is our social media extraordinaire, as well as assist with some of our human relations. I mean, excuse me, human resources type of um, assignments when it comes to finding different brand collaborators, influencers, and making sure that the guests of our events are treated with hospitality. That we have Nico, who was of our production and does make sure we have a good job from a branding and visual aspect. So over time, it started with just two people, but then we grew and to be able to incorporate people into our team and allow them to thrive within their certain um, realms of expertise. And then now we built out a community. We got about 2,000 people across social media between Instagram and TikTok that we've connected with, and we built out a marketing listing of about close to 300 to 500 people, and that allows us to just stay in contact with people who come to our event, who stay up to date with our social media posts. And for me, it's just been a great experience because now I am a man of God. At the same time, I'm also a child, from a spiritual standpoint. So I should say more, mainly I'm a child of God because I'm forever in my infant stages, even though I'm a young man. At the same time, from a spiritual level, it's so many things that I'm not even aware about that I'm still learning. And I think that what makes it great is because Eric is somebody who is very disciplined, he's very obedient, and he is um very outspoken when it comes to God, and he'll let you know like he's a believer. And I think that that's something that a lot of people kind of shy away from, of just being out in the open with it, being public about it. But he makes it to where it's welcoming. So I think being able to have both of us on the same team and being able to build the brand together has been phenomenal. And it has helped us as individuals too, just to be able to sharpen up on the skills that we see fit.
That's good. And like I said, everybody not gonna be like some people not gonna be coming the guy that they 50 something. You know what I mean? Everybody's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna be doing it at this age, and that's just what it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
reality. But some people are caught a little earlier. So it's just like it is what it is. And some
Mm-hmm.
people is a slow boogie. Some people they just out everything. They just stop doing everything, you know. But it's good to see. I think what it's good to see, especially on like platforms that I watch. Have you ever heard of Hardly Initiated?
Hardly initiate. I'm not sure if I've heard that one before.
You should look into it when you get off here.
Okay.
You can literally watch the transformation with them.
Okay.
And because if you look at that first episodes to like now, you see the transition, even in that guest. So it's good to see more of that versus sometimes you see somebody one day twerking one day and then the next day they, sold out all, and not saying nothing's wrong with that
Yeah.
because that's some people's story. But I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying sometimes it's good to see the slow transition because that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Now, something I saw that you said that slow motion is better than no motion. So that's a perfect segue into that.
Yes, Sersky.
So, how does this mindset help men shift from being passive to intentional? And how do you also incorporate that into just create?
Yeah. So it's two things. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you have to have faith of a mustard seed if you want to move mountains.
Right.
So for me, everything is predicated upon what you start up in here, what's inside of here, and then movement. Just create. We have a formula that we use that comes from us being able to identify what exactly it is that people are looking for. When you have clarity and direction and execution, it leads to freedom.
Yeah.
Clarity is just a state of there's no confusion.
Yeah.
There's no detour. Direction is the thing that's added because you know where you're going because you have the clarity. And then when you know where you're going, you can execute. And then when you execute, you can venture into a life of freedom. That's essentially the formula that we use. And then on the flip, from the business side of things, we look at it as branding with market research along with a offer equals partnership. Because with that, there's always an end goal of I can't do this alone. You look at any business that is multi-figure, they have partners. And the way that they got to the partner was they had to start somewhere that allowed them to be able to say, like, you know what, I have something I can do. I done the research. I have an offer, but I have to do this with. I need to do this with somebody else that can match my energy, and that's where the partnership comes in. So there's two formulas at the same time. When you take a look at both of them, it's all centered around just being centered. Having faith, and to get back to like your question, from an answer standpoint, I think that it just takes a level of you can't be
Commitment.
selfish.
Yeah.
I think you have to really understand what it means to like serve some servitude. That's something me and my father talk about a lot of time. It's like take yourself in the driver's seat and just sitting in the back sometime. Just
Yeah.
seeing what other people see and being able to lead in different areas. Sometimes you may not always need to be in the front because your role is to be able to support somebody else. So
Right.
I think this has allowed me to see things and then just life from different angles. So yeah, that's kind of like how that'll be my 2 cents for that.
Okay. Let's move to the final segment for today, which is the weekly sabbatical. And in this segment, we kind of just reminisce on some things and kind of go over some things. So before we get into that, I have to wake a statement. As a man, you shouldn't be surprised. Now, let me break down what I mean by that. So, are you going to have surprise moments, good and bad? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But as a whole, your life should not just be like you just winging it every day. I
Yeah,
think
I
that you
agree.
might have seasons of that, but just your whole life, you just waking up and just going with the flow every day. I feel like I do that, but I do it from a stance, from an organized chaos point of view. So like every day I'm winging it to an extent, but it's more so a little spontaneous. But every day I know, full-time entrepreneur, I have to work on some work for my clients. I have to send emails. I probably may have a meeting. We getting back. Well, we back in season now for the podcast. So after the 3-month break, so now I got to do the live stream and the podcast. Thank God I was proactive in recording buku episodes in advance, so I don't have to, be trying to record and then, all of that.
Yeah.
But it's just about, for the most part, just being able to say, you know what, have a planner. I don't want to get ahead of the tips for today, but just, I'm big on having an in-person planner. Some people are good with just a digital one. I'm good, maybe because I'm a writer, I'm good with having it in your face, writing down,
Yeah.
looking over it every single day. Like, okay, what I got to do today, so you don't miss nothing. Because I have an excellent memory. Sometimes I do be forgetting stuff.
That's real.
So yeah, keep that in mind as we go along today, y'all. Now I have a question. So we talked briefly about Kingdom Nights.
Yes.
Now, Christian clubs been catching hell, and I see the comments from the people. Now I want to go to Kingdom Nights, but I didn't see the comments from the people online, and they be saying stuff like, so yeah, in there, so it's a Christian club, so people in there twerking for Jesus, and people in there saying, people gonna say all the crazy stuff, and it's the other side, which is the Pharisee people saying like, oh, this ain't right, and y'all trying to be like the world and all of this stuff. So first of all, I'm giving you your flowers for doing what you're doing. So good job with that.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. I need an excuse to come to Detroit, so I may make that. We'll talk off air when the next one is. We just had the third one I saw. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about how that even came about and what to expect at.
So Kingdom Nights, our first Kingdom Nights was in December of 2024, and that went very well. We did it as a I guess you could say like a New Year's Eve type of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So it showed, well, one, how it even came about was Eric was very adamant about making sure that people had an environment to just fellowship, as if there wasn't any type of like structure. Because most of our events, they're structured as an agenda day. We tell you what we're gonna do. But he noticed that even as believers, as Christians, like, we're still human beings. We still want to have fun. Like, and then for people who are on this walk, most of the people who and true people who have been, I'm not saying discrediting anybody's walk or saying somebody better than the other, but there's been most people who have been on that journey. They were in the club too first or before, or been there at some point in life.
We talked about that slow boogie. They still might be there.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not, and it's no judgment. It's just like, if you can have that same experience, or we can provide that same experience, but making sure that it's led with a sense of like, hey, we want to worship God, and we want to open up, we want to make this space where we can fellowship, worship, and just have fun under our Creator's name. There is no issue. It's just literally it's the same type of party you would go to. It's just Christian music, Christian hip hop. Kirk Franklin, Todd Tribbett, Marvin Sapp, BBCC wine, like a BBCC wine is mixes. Like, you might get a little Kirk Franklin with a little undertone of Usher, just because you still gonna get that flavor. You have a little instrumental R&B, but then the words is the gospel version of the song. Like, it's a great time, and I think that a lot of people may have a negative connotation towards it. One, they've never been, or two, I think that they're trying to place their own, negative thoughts on something because they see the fun aspect of it, or the club word. Like, the club throws a lot of people off, like a Christian club. At the same time, it's like, if we was to say Christian meetup, we still doing the same thing if it was a Christian club. It's the same environment, but at the same time, it's like, We aren't doing anything that's tearing down the kingdom. If anything, is lifting it up. We praying, we fellowshipping. We people come in and have a good time. It's like it's really, and there's other people who do it. There's one in Atlanta. There's one in Orlando.
The one in Atlanta and the ones in Orlando have definitely caught flack, which I know is just people being extra because it's like
Mm-hmm.
you said, people getting caught up in club. If you would have said Christian meetup, would they be saying that? And then my thing is, y'all
Exactly.
don't have liquor, nobody twerking, nobody.
Nobody's working. Only beverages we serve are mocktails, and we have good food. And even with the mocktails, it's juice.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I've been transitioning out of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I've go through waves without it, and more sooner than later it'll be completely off, which I've lived, going months and weeks without it. And it ain't
Yes.
been that bad. And I actually encourage people, even if like I know me is gonna be a little different, but I know some people they're gonna drink the rest of their life, but that's fine. But I just say some people take breaks just to see how it is, because you one
100%.
save a lot of money, it's good on your body,
Yeah.
and so I think that you need to get ready for the next one. Y'all need to let me know when it is.
I
And
got you.
if y'all want somebody to turn everybody up with some commentary for free, let me know, because I might can pull up. But
I got you.
what was I finna say? As we wind down on today, um, there are ways that we talking about commending your works to the Lord, all right? And this is not going to process that's going to happen overnight. So this is just some things to get y'all minds going. As always, I give y'all the websites to go to check it out. Also, before I get into that, real quick, you made a comment. I'm going to add this here, and I might be being petty. You made a comment earlier about faith of a mustard seed, right? Okay, so everybody knows DJ Mustard. You can look this up. It's on Twitter. In 2019, I jokingly messaged him, and I said, and it was public, and I still got the messages. I said, you should name your next album Faith of a Mustard Seed. He responded and said, it's funny because Nipsey told me to do that before he died. Last year, DJ Mustard named his album Faith of a Mustard Seed. I just had to throw that in there. Okay. Now,
Gotta get you your 10%.
look, he ain't even gotta give me no money. He could just say, hey, I remember that. That's all right. Look, he ain't even gotta get no money. I am easy to please. So, all right, let me get into some of the ways. So it says the first one is seeking God's will through his word. And it gives the breakdowns because of time. Y'all gonna have to look it up yourself, but I gave y'all the website. Obviously reading the Bible, that provides clarity, and Bible studies and things of that nature. Pray over your plans. That's the easy thing to do. If you're in the Detroit area, you can go to Kingdom Nights, and you can go to Just Create events. Hey, there
every
you go.
every last
Trust in God.
Thursday, creating with creators.
Right. Trust in God's providence, recognizing that despite planning, outcomes rest in God's hands. Keep that in mind. Being patient and waiting on the Lord, as hard as it sounds. Remember what I learned recently: patience is not a time, it's a posture. Keep that in mind. Remaining humble and teachable. And this is about with being around community and things of that nature. Surround yourself with godly counsel. I'm all for having different groups of friends, but you need to know the different groups you can tell to and what not to. Acknowledge God in all your ways. Make it a habit to recognize God's hand in every aspect of your life. Acknowledge Him fosters a continuous relationship, inviting His presence into daily activities. This practice reinforces dependence on Him and ensures that your works are consistently committed to His glory. All right, now, as we wind down today, I want you to tell me, we talked about not letting life happen to you, being proactive, having things in order, having a plan at least, because at the end of the day, even if your plan does go away, you can at least know, like, if you commit your plans to the Lord, whether it's through a vision board or whether it's through writing it in your journal, at least you can pray and you'll notice certain things. Like, if you could, just a tip you can do, pray and ask God, like, okay, what should I be focusing my time on? And just pay attention to what you feel led to do and what you don't feel led to do. Now, sometimes some things could be like a little warfare, and that's a conversation for another day, so we ain't gonna get into that. But keep that in mind when you writing out your goals and getting things together. So now, getting into being proactive, staying on top of your stuff, not letting life just happen to you. If you could go back and give your 20-year-old self one message about being proactive and not letting life happen to him, what would it be?
20 years old. Oh, that's a good time too. If I could go back and talk to my 20-year-old self, the one thing that I would tell him Do what you need to do today so that way you can be proud of yourself tomorrow. I think when I was 20, I would put off a lot of stuff to the side and I would pick and choose what would get my attention based off of what the return was and not really focus on what do I need to do today. Like what does Andre need to take care of and make that the priority. So that when tomorrow comes, I can give myself a pat on the back. That's something that I would tell my 20-year-old self to alleviate a lot of confusion, um, bad decision making, poor planning, because you have to learn. And those are just 6 years ago. So within them 6 years, there's definitely a lot of growth that has happened. But that's one thing that I would say to myself around 20 years old is do what you need to do today, so that way you can be proud of yourself tomorrow.
I would say to my 20-year-old self, because I turned 31 this year, so that's about 11 years. And I would tell myself, don't use them credit cards. So keep it simple,
That's a good one.
to the point. All right. Question or challenge for the week. I want you to ask yourself what is currently holding you back. And then the next question, is it you? Because sometimes we be holding our own selves back. A lot of times we get in our head thinking we're gonna wait on this time to happen and wait for this to happen. Do it now. Remember that commercial that man used to be yelling at us? What's that commercial? He used to be like, so you're sitting on your couch, you're not letting life pass you by.
Yeah, the Everest commercial. They used to come
Yeah,
on every day at Detroit. I don't know about y'all.
St. Louis, everywhere. The Everest commercial. Pretend the Everest man is yelling at you. Pretend that, like, I want this season to feel like that. Not just this episode, but just the whole season to feel like that. The stick of the Everest man. All right. Anything else you want to add to the people? Say to the people before you go.
No, I will. Yes, I will say one. Thank you for having me on. I think the conversation was great. It was fruitful. We're able to dissect a lot about what's going on in society, as well as my own life, and giving the people some good takeaways. So, for the people listening, I will say always bet big on yourself. That is the mantra for Duffy season and the brand that I created. So, never be afraid to take a risk on yourself.
All right, good stuff. All right, y'all. That is it. Tune in next week. We got another hot fire episode. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you. And remember, as always, I love us for real.